I'm supposed to give you welcoming message, but I'm not the one who will be welcoming. But I believe this conference is called by the Holy Spirit. Therefore, God Himself is welcoming. And, when I think about, this is the second conference, by the way, and last year I was here. And when I think about the conference, the Korean American conference in America, it's just feel God is really moving in history. I like to go back to the first century. They would not have this kind of a conference, but in the first century, the setting in the 21st century seems to be like the first century setting, in a way, the historical setting I'm talking about. In time of Jesus, the Roman Empire was the strongest country. And God has set the Roman Empire. There are 400 years of silence of God. Then God sent His Son, Jesus Christ. You know what He was doing in 400 years? He was making stage. He was preparing Roman Empire so that God may reach the Roman Empire, and through Roman Empire, the world, the rest of the world. That's what it happened when we look at the history. And I believe God is coming again. Jesus is returning again. I think the time is very close, and He has been preparing for this stage. And what He has done, He prepared another Roman Empire, the strongest country, the most multi-ethnic, and there's no country like this in the history of civilization. The America, I believe, is undoubtedly the 21st century Roman Empire. It's amazing. Not only God was preparing the Roman Empire, but God was preparing, I believe, this is my conviction, He was preparing the Korea. You know, when I think about Korea, I am Korean, and I did not know Jesus Christ until I came over to America. Nevertheless, I was meditating and studying what God has been doing through Korea. You know, when I look at the history, there was a greatest spiritual revival of the 20th century was in Korea. 1917, Pyongyang spiritual revival. Why? I ask question why. At the time, Korea was being invaded by Japan, had no country of its own. And besides, Korea was one of the poorest country in the whole world. But nevertheless, God chose Korean people and gave tremendous spiritual revival, which is now happening even today, continuing on. And at the later part of the 20th century, God would start sending Korean Christian to America, which means when I compare to the first century Roman Empire. So I'm likening the first century Korea as the first century Judea. And I'm likening America is the first century Roman Empire. Can you get a picture? Start getting some picture. You see, the Paul, Barnabas, Silas, Timothy, they were Jews, but they were Grecian-speaking, Greek-speaking Jews. And when I see that, the reason that why was God was sending the Korean people to America is not because Korean people can do a lot, but through the second generation, they can reach America and the world. Just like Paul and Barnabas and Silas and Timothy, they were Christians, but Greek-speaking. You know, Greek language of first century is the language of the world. Just today, the English is the language of the world. Look at what second generation has. Second generation has American citizenship, like Roman citizenship of the first century. And look, they were born in America, therefore they have the English as their native tongue. And they have spiritual heredity from their parents. What does it tell? I believe God has great purpose for Korean people, but especially for the Korean second generation. The New York, to me, is the capital of the world. Because in the whole world, there's most multi-ethnic city is New York City. And New York has UN headquarters, is in New York City. And isn't it significant that we have ambassador conference right in 21st century New York City? I believe each one of you, God has great purpose. If not you, your son, your daughters, next generation. It goes on and on. So I trust you will be able to meet God. This conference is not a conference of gathering of the people. Unless there is God, there's no the Christian conference is any meaningful. So I believe and I trust you will be able to meet Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit himself. How? Perhaps through the speaker, perhaps through just meeting person to person. Because when you are meeting a person, oh, you are glad to see the person, right? I haven't seen you a long time. I'm glad to see you. How are you? That's good. But through that meeting, it's not just person to person, but person in the presence of the Holy Spirit, which means in the middle, there's Jesus Christ. So hopefully, through the person, I'm praying that you will meet Jesus Christ. Through the speaker, I pray that you will meet Jesus Christ when you return. You return not with just empty hand. You return with the Holy Spirit strong, with the presence of Jesus Christ. So I pray this conference that will continue on. This is the second conference. And thank you for Paul Chung putting out this conference. It's a lot of work. We got to give big hand for Paul Chung. Anyway, I pray God will bless you through this conference. Thank you.